Okay, and back with Hesham. Some of you may remember I asked Hesham this question. Of all the governments in the Middle East, when you think about them in total, how many of them are influenced to a dominant degree, outright controlled, or penetrated by Israeli agents, the Mossad, Israeli power, or other kinds of machinations that the Israeli government is able to foist upon nations in the Middle East? How many of them are controlled by Israel and Zionism to one significant degree or another? And he said without any hesitation, all of them. All of them. Now, that's not to say that there aren't some nationalists like Bashar al-Assad, but when you look at the totality of things, and what we're looking at right now is the destruction, that's control, of yet another nation. From within, from without. It just doesn't seem to be something that even all the Arabs in the world can stop or thwart, Hesham. They just can't do it. Is it because there's bribery, blackmail all over the place, which there is? Is it because of international banking and the control they have over the countries?
That's
possible?
Number one. That's the number one on the agenda. When you think of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, that's where the control is. And when you have a country like the United States that can basically print money out of nothing, and the world accepts it. See,
They take it right in.
This is the problem. This is the problem that the dollar has become, even though there's nothing to back it up, nothing behind it, it is unsupported, but yet it's accepted, and the world accepts it in all of their dealings. And therefore, the United States, the Zionists, through the United States, very much have an unlimited, they don't need gold anymore, even though they very much own most of it, but they don't, them and the Vatican, but it's not gold anymore these days. Now it's who controls money, who controls the dollar. And the Zionists control it through the Federal Reserve Bank, and they can issue as much money. So they have unlimited, at a time when Egypt cries to have $2 billion and $3 billion, which is nothing for the Zionists to say, okay, they want to issue $90 billion, $100 billion. They can't do that just by adding the numbers on the computer at the Federal Reserve Bank, and instantly it's already being used in the world, period. Yeah. That's how you control them. That's how you control the world. That's how you control, and most of these governments, they had stopped Egypt from using its resources. They have stopped most of these Arab countries from using their resources, like their agriculture. Why would Egypt depend on the United States for its wheat, for its grain? Egypt used to grow its own grain. But with the peace process with Israel and the $3 billion that they signed for, well, it was economic, $3 billion a year in economic aid, and all of that basically buying wheat from United States farmers. So they stopped growing wheat in their own countries, and they depended 100% on their loaf of bread from the United States. So is that control? Or the $1.3 billion the Egyptian army gets directly? And it doesn't go to the Egyptian government, it goes directly to the army, and the army gets to do with it whatever the heck the army pleases to do with it. And that's coming directly from the United States. So who's the master? Who's in command of that army?
Correct.
If $1.3 billion go. The salaries of all the Egyptian army comes from the United States and comes from nothing. What's up $1.3 billion for the United States to get from the Federal Reserve Bank that it did not cost them anything? Right. The United States has free ride in the world. Before the Roman Empire, etc., they used to have to go and conquer land to get their resources. These days, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is issue money that the others will use and you control them through the use of the dollar.
Which means nothing. The dollar is really valueless. All it is a function of psychology. It's a state of mind, the
Sure,
dollar.
it's a state of mind, but that's the only way these people will live.
Yeah, all true. All true. Wow. Grim. What did the people in the Arab world say about this? Similar things
people
that
in
you...
the Arab world, we used to say how stupid the sheeps in the United States are because the media very much got them under control. It's the same way over there. And also the media is not Arab media. It's Zionist media.
Correct.
It's Zionist media.
Trace the ownership.
Al Jazeera, Al Arabiya.
That's right.
And in Egypt, it's all Zionist media, even though they speak Arabic, but it's all controlled. It's the dollar is what controls, and the Zionists control the dollars. Therefore, the Zionists control everyone who they give the dollars to. So all these countries are, in one way or another, they live with Zionist control. And look at Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, it's nothing. It's made out of house of cards. Within 2 hours, they can be gone if the United States and Israel decides, and it's coming. Look what happened in Qatar. Qatar, you had a very strong prime minister and a very strong emir for the last 10 years, and they did what they did for the Zionists in Libya, in Syria, in Yemen. They spend the money. They spend the billions of dollars on Al Jazeera. They spend the billions of dollars on all of these fighters. And in one decision, they told the emir that he needs to step down and his son needs to be the emir. Now Qatar is out of the formula, by the way. Qatar went back to its normal place in the Arab world, which is a very small nation with no power. And that's exactly what Qatar is now. 2 months ago, it was the superpower of the Arab world. Now it's nothing.
Fascinating.
So who's playing with that? It's the Zionists who are playing with that.
Correct. Now, let's look at the plight of what's left of Palestine. How much longer will there be Palestinians in Palestine?
They'll be there for... that's probably the place where you're going to find Palestinians for... they've been there since day one on this earth. I think Jericho is the first city 5,000 years ago, and they're going to be there. But how the political system is going to be, we don't know.
In what status?
In what capacity, we don't know.
That's right. Yeah, that's my question.
Right now, last week actually, the United States wanted to be on the negotiations table with the Palestinians and the Israelis, and the Palestinians demanded it. That hey, look, we need the United States here so they can be a witness on what we're talking about here. Israel objected, and guess what happened? The United States did not sit on the table. How are you going to have negotiations at the same time Israel is speeding up the building of settlements? Negotiate on what? Yeah, Israel released, I think, 46 or 26 Palestinian prisoners who were there since before 1993.
It's so disgusting. By
the way, they killed one of them yesterday.
They killed 3 more today.
Well, they killed. Were they released prisoners?
No.
No. Yesterday they killed one of the prisoners. They released from jail. He's been in jail for like 20-some years.
Jeez.
And they killed him yesterday in his home.
He got out, went home, and these people are not human. The people over there that are doing these things, this is not human behavior. This isn't. These homing. The projects that the American taxpayer is paying for, the settlements, so-called settlers, the new homes, 1,500 here, 1,200 there, 800 there, 1,000 more there. What I was trying to get at was how much longer can the Palestinians really maintain much of a presence in East Jerusalem before they're literally forced out? There's room there.
In East Jerusalem, they are being and when we say Palestinians, many people think we're only talking about Muslims. No, we're talking about Muslims and Christians.
Christians, Arabs,
and I'll tell you what, the Israelis are more worried about Christians than they are Muslims, because they want to first they're going to get rid of the Christians, because actually Christians they have dwindled in numbers to a very dangerous level right now in Jerusalem.
Where have they gone?
I want to say there's probably about 15,000 or 5,000, something like that. Mm-hmm. Very low number, but in 1967, there used to be over 100,000 Christians in the city. Well,
they've emigrated somewhere, I guess.
Where are they gone? Yeah, they emigrated into all over.
Uh-huh. So their diaspora is worldwide as well. They've just gone.
Oh, yes, yeah. Definitely. And now the Palestinians in East Jerusalem, I don't know, maybe 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, if things continue to be the same way, there not going to be any Palestinians there. They're going to push them all out.
That was my question.
Because these people are fanatics. They think that they're going to purify themselves and redeem themselves when they get rid of the goyim out of the land.
It's a cleansing.
Then they are going to,
total cleansing.
God's going to be pleased with them. And
that's right.
Send them to heaven.
Complete cleansing. Totally.
Yes.
Well, Hesham, we're about to see apparently another nuclear war, depleted uranium war, unleashed on an innocent country and its people, which will then, of course, suffer forever with birth defects, genetic problems. You know the story. They're going to Fallujah-ize much of Syria with their DU bombs and DU cruise missiles and all the rest
I don't
of it.
expect any ground troops, but I do expect...
No, it'll be a standoff war. They don't need to.
Yes, they don't need troops. It's going to be...
They just lob in explosives.
Yes.
Any way they want. Disgusting. Yes. Thank you, Hesham, for being here. It's always an honor, and we always learn. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night. Very, very disheartening, all of it. Okay, hold on a second. We'll be right back with hour number 2